And we are back. My next guest, none other than Melissa Powers, Hamilton County Prosecutor. Hope Dudley, you've been on this show before. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. I was watching the news the other day. I saw where you got this big cold case task force. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a very exciting project that's been started through the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office in conjunction and in partnership with the Cincinnati Police Department and their Homicide Division. We have over 400 unsolved murders in Cincinnati, and there are 2 dedicated homicide detectives within the police department working on those cases now, and we're adding my 4 retired homicide detectives, investigators to assist the Cincinnati Police Department. The idea here is to get eyes on these cases, working these cases, and trying to bring resolutions for the many families.
We have a little cut here from a news report yesterday. Let's take a look at it and give people a better understanding of what's going on there.
Hope Dudley's been fighting for the families of murder victims for nearly 2 decades. Her son Chaz died in a drive-by shooting in 2007.
So 17 years, he had 5 children. They're all adults now. So that gives me some encouragement to go back and tell them that they're actually looking for somebody who murdered their father.
Police Chief Teresa Thigi says the city has as many as 500 unsolved murders dating back to the 1940s. Thigi says the task force came about after talking with Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers. It's something Powers says she's wanted since becoming prosecuting attorney.
I have seen firsthand the healing power of closure for victims of crime. The relief on the faces of family members when they hear the word guilty in the courtroom is something you never forget.
The task force will feature 2 detectives reviewing evidence and seeing if it can be tested with new technology. The ATF will make it easier for the detectives to have evidence tested using the latest equipment. And more money will be available to entice people to come forward with anonymous tips to Crime Stoppers. Meanwhile, Hope Dudley, who became an activist for victims, founding the group You Can Speak for Me, is hopeful the task force can finally bring her son's killer to justice.
It means that somebody is going to be looking at my son's case all the time. And families will know that we have a cold case task force, and that's very encouraging to the people that want to know if anybody's looking at their loved ones' cases.
Chief Thigi says while there are hundreds of unsolved murders, the city's homicide closure rate so far this year is 69%. She says that's far above the national average of only 52%. In Queensgate, I'm Christian Hauser.
Now, Hope, you've got to be excited about this.
I'm very excited. Our homicide cold case department had closed, and I couldn't understand why nobody was speaking up about the 400. At the time, I was saying 400 unsolved homicides. So when I went to an event and I saw Prosecutor Powers there, I told her, I said, do you know that we have over 400 unsolved homicides? And she said she had no clue. And she went right to work on it.
I mean, that's a big deal to get 2 full-time detectives working on nothing but cold cases.
Absolutely. So the Cincinnati Police Department, they will be the lead. And then my office, as I said, I have investigators, 4 of which are retired homicide detectives.
Okay.
And they will be providing the assistance to really start looking at these cases and bringing the cases up to 2024 technology standards, working with the coroner's office, working with BCI, ATF, and that's what we're hoping. We get some great results.
And we are back. Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers. We've got Hope Dudley. And parents just like you who've lost loved ones, how does it make you feel to know that somebody will be looking into those cold cases?
It's hard to explain. It's been 17 years, and I've had about 5 or 6 different detectives, and sometimes I didn't even know who was working on my son's case. But to know that 2 people are going to be working on their cases, along with the prosecutors for detectives. Everybody is excited. Everybody that I talked to have listened to the news, and we're celebrating because now we have somebody that's actually looking at our cases.
Now, you know, a lot of these cases could be solved if somebody would just say something. What is it with, you know, people not speaking out? They know something, they're keeping quiet.
Well, I think some of them may be fearful to come forward that there could be retaliation, and so that's a very frightening thing to be able to come forward. My hope is that we obviously we have Crime Stoppers. You can submit information anonymously through Crime Stoppers. There is a reward offered along with that if it leads to an arrest. But I'm also hoping that we start changing through conversation and outreach in the community, that if you see something, say something, and that you will be protected. You can believe in the judicial system. There will, if there's, you know, people will be kept behind bars if there's a conviction, so that they will be safe, their family members will be safe.
And I mean, yeah, that's a big thing. People think that, oh man, with all these shootings going on now, and what do you think about all this violence in Cincinnati, teenage violence and just violence in general? Just the other night, Kirkup and Odin Street in Kennedy Heights, somebody rode up on two teenagers and shot them. I mean, what do you say when you get all these cases into your courtrooms?
I've been doing this for 32 years, and each time I hear that, I mean, my stomach just sinks. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. To know that, especially when children are being shot and murdered or killed, or that even children are involved in the shootings. We cannot have that, and we need to start making a change. And I think the change has to involve everybody, from schools, parents, keep the mentors out there in the community, judges making sure that it's not a revolving door. Every time you are soft on crime, you're emboldening the criminal to do more, or that nothing's going to happen to them if they get caught. We want crime to be preventative, where it is a deterrent. And so there's many things that need to happen to change this idea that we're having here currently and what's happening with the violence. I hear there's new initiatives that City Council is trying. So hopefully some of these things we all have to keep our pulse on it and keep working and try to bring it to resolution. So we have safe neighborhoods for everybody, and that nobody needs to fear walking down the street or going to a football game. Everybody should be able to live in our community without fear.
Yes. And more and more teenagers seem to be bound over to adult court now. A lot of them should be bound over, but they're not. How do you feel about that?
Well, with the bindovers, if it involves a firearm, you want, and they're at the right age. If they're older, they're 16, 17 years old, and they've shot somebody or murdered somebody, those are probably the cases that would be bound over, because the consequences should be proportionate to the severity of the crime. But people need to be held accountable. People need to be held responsible, and it cannot be just a slap on the hand. Now, I believe in second chances and rehabilitation, but when we're dealing with violence and violent crime, though we know the way to keep people safe, they have to be taken off the streets. The violent offender needs to be removed from the community.
In a couple of days, the election is coming up. You're running for prosecutor. How do you feel about it? Do you feel good about your chances?
We feel really good. We've run a great campaign. We've worked really hard. I've got support from around, and probably every zip code in Cincinnati. I'm getting support from it. People are realizing this election is about safety. It's not about politics. So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent. They're going to be voting for who's going to keep them safe in the community. And that's what my platform's been. That's what my office has done. Our mission is about safety.
All right. Hope, I know you're excited about maybe somebody's looking into your son's murder. Hopefully they can find out who did this to your son, and good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both for joining me this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. I'll be back again next Sunday morning at 6:30 on Star 64. Check me out Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 1230 The Buzz. Sunday afternoons on the Sunday Soul Classics on 100.3 Cincy's R&B station. Until next Sunday morning at 6:30, have a great week.